What we mean by the term world domination is the direct or indirect control of a huge part of the world's population. In fact, the empires that have been included in this list did not necessarily have the entire world under their control, and it is enough that they have managed to come close to dominating a large and important part of the world's population and have the potential to influence the rest of the world. In this list, we will count all the empires of the world that have ruled throughout history until today. 10th place, Portuguese Empire. Most of the people of the world do not consider the Portuguese Empire as one of the great colonial powers, but the truth is that in the history of Portugal, for a short period of time, Portugal got the chance to form a world empire and stand next to the British Empire. The Portuguese were the first European government to colonize, and they managed to discover India, Japan, Brazil and large parts of Africa. Portuguese forces conquered Mozambique in East Africa and Brazil in Latin America. During its heyday, the Portuguese Empire established trade ports in different regions of the world from India to Arabia, Malaysia, China, and Japan, and they were able to dominate the trade routes from Asia to Europe and the internal routes of Asia. It is interesting that the Portuguese Empire was able to form such a powerful empire during that period of history that no other empire could match. But after the 15th century, this power and strength gradually declined, and if this weakness did not occur, the Portuguese Empire could have formed a huge and powerful empire than the British Empire. If the Portuguese managed to capture all the trade routes of Asia, they would definitely become the richest empire in history, and as a result, they could easily pay the necessary expenses to conquer India, Africa, China, Latin America and other parts of the world. Provide. 9th place, Timurid Empire. The Timurid Empire was the rule of nomads who came to power after the dissolution of the Mongol Empire. The Timurids ruled over large parts of western Turkey, Iran, the Caucasus and Mesopotamia, India and parts of Central Asia. Unlike the Mongols, the Timurids dominated their ability to conquer and govern. They came to power in the early 14th century, that is, when it was possible to communicate between countries and governments could create regular armies. Timur Lang, the founder and absolute king of the Timur dynasty, was reminiscent of Genghis Khan, the founder of the Mongol Empire. One of the main reasons for Timur's rise to power was that no force in the world could compete with Timur's armed army on horseback. Timur was able to easily defeat the Arab Muslim armies in India and destroy their army, but what made him rank among the world's most powerful empires was his plan to defeat the Chinese Ming dynasty. The Ming conquest, with its impressive population and resources, would have helped Timur move closer to dominating much of the world. But Timur died before reaching China. Maybe if Timur had survived, he could have come close to conquering the whole world. 8th place, German Nazis. Some historians believe that if Hitler had reconsidered some of his decisions, he could have won World War II and given Germany the opportunity to dominate the world. For example, maybe if Russia had not gone to war so hastily and instead had occupied African regions and succeeded in defeating Britain in the East, the German Nazis would have become the undisputed power of the world. If history had changed a little, Hitler could have dominated half the world, and no other power would have been able to compete with the vast communication network of the Nazi fleet and jets. But what really happened in history was that Hitler united other countries to fight for a common goal under the leadership of Nazi Germany, Romanians next to Hungarians, Germans next to Italians, Bulgarians, Slovaks, Croats, and Finns. This level of new European unity could easily pave the way for the formation of a European superstate led by Germany. Perhaps the Second World War was the last chance in history that the empires of the world could dominate the world, and Nazi Germany also got this chance for a short time. 7th place, Spanish Empire. In its heyday under Charles V and Philip II of the Habsburg dynasty, the Spanish Empire dominated the remnants of the Portuguese Empire, namely India, Austria, Rome, and the Spanish colonies. The armies of Holland, Germany, Spain, Italy and Portugal were able to unite for a brief period in history to dominate all of Europe. The number of these allies was unprecedented in history, and if Spain had not been defeated on the battlefield, it would probably have gained additional strength. For a while, The Spanish Empire had the largest volume of gold, the best ships and the best armies in the world, and had more than 13% of the world's land under its direct influence. What made the Spanish Empire dominate the world was that, unlike the Mongols, they had communication technology and could control different regions of the world. In fact, most of the Spanish colonies remained under Spanish rule for several centuries. But the power of this empire declined after several military defeats and rising inflation caused by the accumulated gold from its colonies. 6th place, Mongol Empire. It cannot be denied that the Mongols came closer to dominating the world. During the glory of this empire, no power in the world was able to deal with their military tactics. Even if they decided to conquer Europe, it is very likely that they could conquer all of Europe and dominate this continent before the year 1300 and remove the head of the Pope. But the greatest conquests of the Mongols had become their greatest weakness. Despite the repeated efforts to dominate different regions of Asia and tolerate different races and religions, the Mongol Empire fell apart very soon after the initial conquests of Genghis. Although the Mongols were unmatched on the battlefield, they did not have the necessary logistics to maintain communication between the different races of their territories, which reached 33 million square meters in 1279 AD. However, they were able to subjugate more than 22% of the world's territory from China to the border of Poland during that period, and 1 out of every 4 people in the world was under the rule of the Mongol Empire. In fact, the Mongols dominated for a short time. The world was close, and if things had turned out differently, they might have succeeded.